Okay, now we are going to talk about that topic we mentioned a moment ago with the authorities scouring through surveillance video and the like up in Boston after the bombings. It has reopened the debate, privacy versus safety.
And here to debate that, Judge Andrew Napolitano, a Fox News senior judicial analyst, joining us. Judge, good to see you.
Good morning, guys.
Do we need to worry about encroachment on our privacy as they, just as an aftermath of these bombings in Boston?
Yes, we do. We do, because there's a natural inclination on the part of all people when they are afraid to reach for safety rather than liberty. And there's a natural inclination on the part of the government to do something, almost anything, to give the impression, real or illusory, that it is keeping us safe. And in both of those inclinations, it is liberty that is sacrificed. And often, I know this sounds like a cliche, but it is true, and it is a cliche, liberty once sacrificed rarely comes back. I mean, think of the things that we thought were radical and that we gave up at the time of 9/11. Federal agents can write their own search warrants. Well, we hadn't had that since the British soldiers could write their own search warrants before the Revolution. We wrote the Fourth Amendment so that wouldn't happen. That's now commonplace, and hundreds of thousands of these are written every year. So the government will reach for more power because it wants its job to be easier. It also wants people to be placated. The government is doing something. And people will let the government do it because they want to feel safe. But they will forget that when the reason for the desire for safety passes, when the better times come, we will have less freedom if we aren't careful.
Let me ask you a modern-day question. In the year where we are right now, in 2013, where is the legal line, to the best that you could describe it, drawn on some of these key issues that people bring up? So tapping the phones certainly would be
How about just surveillance cameras in the streets?
Surveillance cameras in the streets, you're right.
Well,
that's another
surveillance
big one.
cameras in the streets pre-9/11 were really unheard of. Now they're extremely commonplace. I live in a very, very small rural town in northwest New Jersey, and that town is filled with surveillance cameras. And I once complained to the police chief, who's a good friend of mine, Mike, what are you turning this town into East Germany for? And he said to me, Judge, don't worry about it. We're just watching. We're not listening. I said, what do you mean listening? He said, well, these cameras also have microphones in them, but we agreed not to activate the microphones. Now, we laugh at this, but
I'm laughing because he should have told you that.
When you're walking down the street with your significant other or with anyone, do you really expect the police to be listening to you? This will profoundly change the way we live our lives.
So what's legal or illegal?
A thing under observation changes on account of its being under observation. That's a Heisenberg's law of physics. This obviously happens to human beings. The law is, in public, there is no expectation of privacy. So what we're looking at now, which is not very far from here, the microphones and the cameras are lawful. But the law still is, if the police want to know what's in here, they would have to go to a judge with probable cause about me or about the owner of this, not he was in an area where he may have taken a picture of a bad guy and we need to know if he has the picture. But what crime have I committed? Probable cause of crime to justify a search warrant to extract this from me against my will. That is still the law of the land. The question is, will the courts and the police respect the law of the land, or will they be so terrified of terrorists that they'll disobey the law of the land? And then they, and not the terrorists, will be taking away our freedoms.
Do we, because we've given up so much of our freedom in terms of how we behave with electronic devices and what we reveal to the world, whether it's on Facebook, other forms of social media, basically, should the government have the right to look into that information in our private lives? Should we give the government greater leeway because the world has changed that way?
I don't think we should. Here's an example. Would it be easier if the police could break down any door they wanted and arrest whoever they wanted and didn't need a search warrant? It would be easier for them, but who would want to live in such a society? In East Germany, it was a crime to fail to report another crime. So if your observation of a crime was on tape, not only would the crime be prosecuted, you'd be prosecuted for failure to report it. Do we really want to live that? Do we really want that big brother society to come here? If we do, we will never know freedom. If we don't, there will always be risks. There are always risks that monsters will be among us. But in return for the risk is personal liberty in a free society.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Pleasure.
Good to see you. Judge Napolitano.
Okay, U-Haul ranked